Well, I'm very excited to get to be here with you today and sort through the main show. And man, we're starting off with a great single entry, and I like this heifer a lot. And she comes in, your initial impression of her, I think it's impressive, the stoutness and power, especially when you talk about foot, bone, her stoutness, structure, and still flexibility is really, really good. And then her rib and body type and shape there is very nice. So I think we're starting off with an extremely nice single entry. I'll be excited to see her back here in just a little bit.
Results for class number 1 of your junior main show. First place 1981 comes from Tate Kerschel of Peyton, Colorado. We'll now bring up class number 2. Class number 2 will be spring heifer calves, calved April of 2025. Within class number 2, we will have entries 1986 from Tessa Delmore of Wellington, Colorado. 1988 from Hadley Reimers of Lincoln, Nebraska. 1990 will come from Charlie Rogers of Meeker, Colorado. 1991 will come from Jackson Walker of Hudson, Colorado. 1992 will also come from Charlie Rogers of Meeker, Colorado. 2110 would come from Emily Skippen of Sherwood Park, Alberta. 1993 would come from Jake King of Cope, Colorado. 1994 would come from Maggie Griswold of Stillwater, Oklahoma. And rounding out our class would be entry 1995 from Braden Tabor of Harvey, Iowa. Those are your entries that make up class number 2. So once again in the ring at this time is class number 2 of your junior main show. Class number 2 is being evaluated by our wonderful judge, Macy Scotton of El Reno, Oklahoma. Macy brings an impressive background of wealth of experience and a passion for the livestock industry that promises to inspire exhibitors and audiences alike. Macy's deep-rooted knowledge and expertise in livestock stem from an excellent educational background. She began her academic journey at Redlands Community College, where she earned her Associates of Animal Science degree before continuing on to Oklahoma State University to complete both her bachelor's and master's degree in animal science. Her academic achievements reflect her commitment to understanding and advancing practices within the livestock industry. Macy's judging experience covers an impressive range from local county fairs to major livestock events on the national stage. Her ability to evaluate livestock with a professional eye and her deep understanding of show standards have made her a sought-after name in the judging rings across the country. We appreciate Macy taking the time to evaluate the 2026 National Western Junior Maine Female Show.
Well, a really good class in the waters. Go ahead and get pretty deep, quick off. And young lady, if you want to go ahead and pull around in 4. I like these 4 heifers on the top end of the class really, really well. And I think each of them have some differences. They're not all the same type and kind. And so I do think there's some discussion where you can kind of talk the differences. But I'll be totally honest, I did feel very comfortable landing on the young man's. When she came in, she's very captivating. And it doesn't matter if she's at the standstill or if she's in motion. I think she pieces together the best in terms of her balance and her silhouette starting up front. She is beautiful headed. Her neck set's awesome. She transitions from her shoulder into her forerib a little more seamlessly than the one that comes behind her. I think she comes back with the right kind of dimension. And then what's impressive to me, when you study them at the ground in terms of their foot shape, their hind leg, and the way they use it, she becomes the most comfortable and the most correct. And so I like her quite a bit. She gets just a little open at the top side of her shoulder, sometimes in motion. I think she's very, very nice, though. I took a little more time between 2 and 3 because I thought those 2 were really nice, and there's some differences between the 2. For me, whenever we got down and studied them, I probably think the young lady's heifer's foot shape is just a little bit better and a little more correct, a bit bigger. She sets down a little more even in her toes. She's a little stouter in terms of her bone work, and then I think just a shot more comfortable in the way she uses her hind leg, and then I think whenever you get in behind her, she's a little stouter to her pin set. She's a shot green right now in terms of her forerib and the way she transitions into that, but I think for where these are at, I don't expect them to come in and be the biggest and the bulkiest in their center right now. I think there's a lot of upside in her. Where I criticize that heifer a little bit in terms of her forerib and her body type, initial impression, I was probably thinking we can land on the young man's here to go ahead and wind up in second, because she is better in the way she transitions from her shoulder into her forerib. She's a little bit bolder right behind it. Her lower body balance and depth back to her rear rib and flank is good. I wish we could change her just a little bit in her rear feet. She gets just a little smaller there. She sets down just a little more tentatively in her hind leg. And then I think from behind, she was not quite as stout out of her hip and her pin set compared to those couple that go in front of her. I think a really, really nice heifer, though, I like a lot. Some really unique pieces that come in this one, and she was fighting the halter pretty hard the whole time and wanting to kind of roll up in her top line, and I think she does want to come up in her loin and roll out of her hip just a little bit, and she gets a little more open in her shoulder. I didn't know if she blended everything together quite as smoothly as those ones that went out in front of her. I do love her stoutness, her structure, and her power. She just wanted where she wanted to open up in her shoulder, get a little tighter in her spine, and kind of roll out of her hip there. The young ladies that comes next is long neck and stout boned. I really like that about her. We need to change her just a little bit, probably soften her in her forerib, in her body, relax her in her front end angles just a little bit. She looks just a little shallower and greener out here. I thought the heifer that came next could make a switch there at the standstill from the side, because she is a little more moderate. She's a little deeper bodied. I just thought she became a shot frailer, and then from behind, quite a bit more closed up out of her hip and her pin set. Heifer that comes next has got some look really strong in her top line. She needs a little more body, a little more stoutness of structure, and to be loosened up and laid back in her front end. We do have a more moderate sized, big boned red heifer that comes next. Maybe hits me just a little bit quicker, and she too we could change. She wants to come up in her front end, toe out just a little bit too much, and then we round out the class. A nice roan. Again, extension, got some look up front. From there back, just need to change her structurally, give her a shot more body. I think if we do that, she becomes a little more competitive there. That was a good class. Congratulations to those exhibitors.
Results coming in out of class number 2 of your junior main show. In 9th place, 2110 from Emily Skippen. 8th place, 1988 from Hadley Reamers. 7th place, 1990 from Charlie Rogers. 6th place, 1991 from Jackson Walker. 5th place, 1992 from Charlie Rogers. 4th, 1986 from Tessa Delmore. 3rd, 1993 from Jake King. 2nd place, 1994 from Maggie Griswold. And your class winner was 1995 from Braden Tabor. Moving in the ring now is class number 3. Class 3 is Junior Maine's Spring Heifers, born March of 2025. We'll have 4 entries that make this class up. It'll be 1996 come from Reed Pratt of Pueblo, Colorado. 1997 from Brenna Wilkins of Bennett, Iowa. 1999 from Hudson Carter of Stratford, Oklahoma. And entry 2000 from Tucker McPherson of Nepi, Utah. Those are your entries that make up class number 3.
Well, another good class, and I took a little bit of time because I thought the decision between 2 and 3 was just a little bit closer. Again, I felt really comfortable landing on the young ladies, and I think especially from a structure standpoint, she just becomes the one that I think you probably need to land on in here, and she is the best in her angles down low, especially when we compare, I think, to the heifer right behind her. The lay of her knee and her shoulder allows her to tie her neck higher and maintain that look quite a bit more comfortably whenever we get her out in motion. I like her stoutness, a hind leg, and the way she uses it. She could be just a little bit better right behind her shoulder in terms of her full rib, just a little square and bulkier. Probably see just a little more shape right there, but still high quality, nice built heifer to win this class. Like I said, I thought 2 and 3 were closer. I guess in my mind, when it came down to it, I thought there's things that I want to change about both of them structurally, and so I didn't want to make my decision just based off of build alone. I thought at the standstill, the young man's pieced together a shot better in terms of her balance. She hit me a little bit fresher, a shot more genuine behind her shoulder, out of her hip and her pin set. Now, I think your initial impression probably might lean towards this one because she's got a shot more stoutness, a bone work. She's got the right kind of body. She opens up too much in her shoulder, wants to get a little extra set to her hind leg, and at the standstill, she could use just a shot more lower flank to balance out perfectly. Young man's that rounds out our class is strong top line, and that heifer just needs a shot more bone, and we could loosen her up just a little bit. But you're doing a good job out here. Congratulations to all of those exhibitors.
Your results coming in for class number 3 of your junior mainspring heifers. 4th place was entry 2000 from Tucker McPherson. 3rd was 1996 from Reed Pratt. 2nd was 1999 from Hudson Carter. And your class winner was 1997 from Brenna Wilkins. Congratulations to our class 3 exhibitors. We'll now move on to class number 4. Class 4 will still be junior main and spring heifers. They will be calved of February of 2025. We have in this class slated 3 entries. 2003 comes from Cambria Cook of Clovis, California. 2004 comes from Kaysen Jones of Chapin, Illinois. And 2111 from Jessica Schoolfield of Waxahachie, Texas. Those are your 3 entries that make up class number 4. Class number 4 is going to be our last class in our division of junior heifers.
Well, another good class here and a really nice pair on the top end of this class. I like both of these heifers, and especially whenever you get them stopped and put together, man, they're both really, really high quality. For me, probably where I see a little bit more of an advantage in the young ladies that leads off is in terms of the center portion of her body, her forerib, the depth of her heart, the sweep back to her rear rib and flank. I think between the pair, she's got a bit of an advantage there just in the way she transitions back, bolder, deeper, better in her sweep, and then between the two she's also got just a shot more stoutness of structure and bone work, so I really like that about her. I think she really wants to fight the halter, and I wish she would just get out and go, but she could be just a little neater at the bottom side of her throat, and sometimes she can get where she looks just a little straighter, but I think that heifer is really nice. Our class winners continue to be very good. I'll be excited to see her back here in just a little bit. The heifer in second, man, she's as good looking as anything. Her neck set, and there she does when she does like that and kind of cocks off. Man, she is very nice up front. A little green right now just in terms of her forerib and her body type. She hit me just a little bit shallower there in terms of her center. We could relax her tail head down just a little bit, but I think that heifer is really nice, and it will only continue to get better. We've got a heifer that rounds out the class that's moderate. She's bold-bodied. She's got some substance. Need to change her just a little bit structurally in terms of her foot shape, the way she sets down at the ground, so she's a little more comfortable, and I think if we do that, that trio becomes really interesting. Congratulations to those exhibitors.
Results for class number 4 in your junior main show. Third place was entry 2004 from Kason Jones. Second was 2111 from Jessica Schoolfield. And your class winner was entry 2003 from Cambria Cook. At this time, we will now work to bring back our class winners from classes 1, 2, 3, and 4, and our judge will select your champion and reserve champion junior heifer calves. Coming out of class number 1, 1981 from Tate Kerschel. From class 2, first place 1995 from Braden Tabor, the second place being 1994 from Maggie Griswold. From class 3, first place 1997 from Brenna Wilkins, second place 1999 from Hudson Carter. And from class number 4, which was just in the ring, first place entry 2003 from Cambria Cook, and second place 2111 from Jessica Schoolfield. Those are your first and second place entries from their respective classes for your judge to select your champion in reserve.
Well, a great lineup as we work through our first division and we get our first and our seconds back out here. Man, the quality's awesome in all 7 of these, and I want to talk through them just so you guys know kind of what's going through my mind, how they hit me, what I think is close. We started off with a heifer in the first class. It was a single entry that came in, and I love her in terms of her moderation, her substance, her stoutness, her structure is all really, really good. I think when we compare her to the heifers that come behind her, she probably doesn't hit us with the same kind of extension or refinement up front. She's just a shot more open in her shoulder and probably just a little quicker in terms of her maturity pattern, but I do appreciate her substance, her stoutness, the structure. I like the heifer that won the second class, and there was 4 really, really nice heifers in that class, and I thought that there was some areas where you could talk through the differences and jumble a couple of things a few different ways, but I did feel really good about landing on that heifer. As soon as she came in, she hit me hard, and I think especially when you study the cattle out in motion, she is very comfortable and really good, and you can expect that at the standstill. Her angles, the set of her knee and the slope of her shoulder, the set of her hip and her hind leg all reads good, and then she maintains that look of balance really, really nicely in motion and puts together an extremely high quality look from the side. I like her a really good deal, and we had a nice second in there. I thought 2 and 3 were a little bit closer. There was some differences like the foot shape and the stoutness of hind leg and the young ladies that was second. And we talk about her, she's just a little green yet in terms of her forerib and in her body type. I think some of that will continue to come with time. The young ladies that comes out of the third class there, another one that I thought within that setting, she became the one that surfaced in terms of her structure. I think when we get her back out here, I don't know if she's motoring out of her front end quite as good as the heifer in front of her. And then we talked about wanting to power her up just a little bit right behind her shoulder, make her a little square, a little bolder there in the turn to her forerib, but she's got a beautiful look. I love her silhouette and presence at the profile, just those couple of little things. The young ladies that just won that final class, I thought both of those were really, really nice out of that class. And this one I think is good because not only does she put together a nice look of balance from the side, I think whenever you step off to a 3/4, she still comes with some dimension, some boldness and turn to her forerib, some stoutness out of her hip, and I like the stoutness of her hind leg. I think her structure is plenty functional and flexible. She could maybe be relaxed just a little bit up front and give just a little more set in her hock, but man, I think still very, very good, puts together a lot of nice things for me. I think there's one that hit me really hard out here, and then I think the decision for reserve becomes a little bit closer. So I'll take a look here whenever we pull our second into contention for reserve, but the young man out of the second class is going to be our champion.
Your champion junior heifer calf comes out of Class 2, 1995 from Braden Tabor. Your reserve champion junior heifer calf comes out of class number 4, that is entry 2003 from Cambria Cook. Congratulations to our division winners, and we will now clear out our ring and make way for class number 5. Class number 5 will be junior Maine fall heifer calves, calved October of 2024. Now making their way into the ring is class number 5. These are junior Maine fall heifer calves, calved in October of 2024. We have a single entry in this class. It is entry 2007 from Henry Michael of Fort Branch, Indiana. This is the only entry in the class and the only class in the division. So first place for class number 5 will become your champion fall heifer calf.
Well, just one here in this division, but one that you can certainly appreciate a lot of things about, especially in terms of stoutness, of structure, having some power and substance there. I really, really like that about her. And when he gets her stopped and put together, I still think she pieces together with some look from the side. We could change her just a little bit structurally so she's just a little more comfortable in motion, maintains her balance just a little bit better, but she's a really nice heifer. Congratulations to him.
Your results for class number 5, first place, and your champion fall heifer calf is entry 2007 from Henry Mickle. Now making their way into the ring would be class number 6 of junior mains. These will be late summer yearling heifers, calved June through July of 2024. We'll have 2 entries that make up class number 6. We'll have entry 2009 from Casey Jones of Chapin, Illinois, and 2010 comes from Kate Sherrill of Pawnee, Oklahoma. Those are your 2 entries that make up class number 6. Class 6 is one of 2 classes for the division of summer yearling heifers.
Well, a good pair and polar opposites between these two. And so you can go back and forth between them and land either way because they're not at all alike. And there's very drastic differences. The heifer that we land on, I guess for me, becomes a little fresher, hits me a little higher quality in terms of her head, her neck, her refinement at the top side of her neck. I like her freshness. And then I think between the two, hooks up a little bit stronger. Right behind her shoulder is just a little more consistent in her top line balance. So I like her freshness. I like her top line. I like her refinement up front. We need to make her a little bit deeper back into her rear rib and flank, give her a shot more bone and a little more reach. And I guess she's got plenty of reach, just maybe not the most attractive. And I think that's where you can find some things for the young mans because this one is bigger and bolder bodied. She's bigger hipped. She's stouter in her hind leg. And so if you like her, I totally understand. I think for me, though, just starting up front, just a little plainer at her head, a little crestier at the top side of her neck and at the base of her chest. She wants to get more open in her shoulder, weaker right behind it, and doesn't piece together quite as well. I thought that pair had quite a bit of back and forth between it. You can kind of sort them however you like. Quite a bit of difference there, but both have some good pieces. Congratulations to both of those exhibitors.
Your results for class number 6 of your junior mains, late summer yearling heifer, second place 2009 from Casey Jones, and your class winner was 2010 from Kate Sherrill. At this time, we will now bring in the ring class number 7. Class 7 is our second to last class of our summer yearling heifers. This is an early summer yearling heifer, calved May of 2024. We have an entry 2014 from Jackson Walker of Hudson, Colorado.
Well, a single entry here in this class, and one that's tremendous in terms of her center body boldness, the turn to her rib, her sweep back to her rib and flank is really, really good. And still she's got some stoutness of structure. So I like her substance and structure in terms of having some power in her skeleton. We could change her front end. She wants to get a little open and upright there in her front end, a little more open in her shoulder, maybe refine her at the top side of her neck, and wants to roll just a little bit from hooks to pins. But a lot of good there still in her. A nice single entry we'll see back here in just a second.
Results for class number 7 of junior mains, first place 2014 from Jackson Walker. At this time, we will now bring back our class winners from classes 6 and 7. Our judge will take the time to deliberate and select your champion and reserve champion summer yearling heifers. From class number 6, first place 2010 from Kate Sherrill. Second place being 2009 from Casey Jones. From class number 7, first place, which was just in the ring, 2014 from Jackson Walker.
Well, a smaller division here, but still good cattle, all three of them that came out here, and all three just a little bit different. And so we talked about the first class and took a little time studying those two and landed on the young ladies just in terms of freshness and a little more refinement in her. We talked about how she could be better back into her flank. She wants to cut up a shot there and probably become a little more refined in terms of her foot and her bone work than probably how I like them. And that's where the second place heifer really complements complimented her. And I think the same thing goes for the single entry that comes out of the second class, where we want to pick on our class winner from the first class. I think that the single entry compliments her. We talked about how she's tremendous in terms of her forerib, her body type, her center body substance is good. She's still got some stoutness in terms of her bone work. We could change her. She's a little too open and upright in her front end structure, a shot crest here at the top side of her neck, and lengthen her out of her hip a little bit. But I still think that in terms of piecing together with some look from the side, she's probably one of the ones I like. And then in terms of still having some substance and some power, she's also one of the ones I like. So we'll land on her. Single entry is going to be a champion. We'll follow up with the young ladies out of the first class for reserve.
Your champion summer yearling heifer is entry 2014, coming out of class number 7. That is from Jackson Walker. Your reserve champion comes out of class number 6. That is 2010, from Kate Sherrill. Congratulations to our division winners, and we will now move on to our next class, which would be class number 8. These will be junior Maine late spring yearling heifers, calved April of 2024. Moving about the ring is class number 8. Again, junior Maine late spring yearling heifers, calved April of 2024. 2 entries make this class up. It is 2015 from Cutter Dorsey of Shallow Water, Texas. And 2016 comes from Kelton Arthur of Stillwater, Oklahoma. These are your 2 entries that make up class number 8.
Well, a great pair. Both of these heifers are really nice, but I do feel comfortable how they're going to go. That, in my mind, that's just probably how they need to go today. The young man's up front. I think the big difference between those two is freshness. Man, she is ultra, ultra fresh, and I love where she's at in terms of her condition. So honest and good, and still for as good and fresh as she is, man, her rib and her body type and sweep back to her rear rib and flank and boldness is really, really good. I love her look. look and presence up front, beautiful ears, awesome neck set, and still I think she maintains that look of balance really, really nicely in motion, good in the way she uses her lower joint work. The heifer in second's another one I think that's still good in terms of her center body substance. I like her stoutness of structure. I just thought between the two, starting up front, a little plainer headed, not as refined about the top side of her neck, I think we could freshen her up just a shot more in terms of her condition, and I think if we do, then that becomes just a little bit closer, but still really, really nice heifer to be second there. Congratulations to both of those exhibitors.
Results for class number 8 of your junior Maine late spring yearling heifers, second place 2015 from Cutter Dorsey. And your class winner was 2016 from Kelton Arthur. Now making their way into the ring would be class number 9, junior Maine early spring yearling heifers, calved March of 2024. Within this class, we'll have a total of 4 entries. 2017 comes from Lander Fitzsimmons of Perry, Oklahoma. 2020 comes from Brenna Herndon of Sapulpa, Oklahoma. 2021 comes from Tessa Delmore of Wellington, Colorado. And 2023 comes from Simon Ray Thorson of Knoxville, Iowa. Those are your entries that make up class number 9.
Well, a really good class. All four of these are very, very nice. And in my mind, man, I had them shuffled around several different ways, several different times, especially depending on what the view is of them. Are they standing still? Are they in motion? And so you could shuffle these around. At the end of the day, I want everyone to know, all these exhibitors, everybody ringside, if you've got any of these, man, I'd be proud to have any one of these four. I'll talk through them and kind of tell you what's going through my mind, how I land on them in this order. From how I break them down, our class winner becomes the one, whenever the cattle are in motion, I think she's one of the most comfortable and the most correct in terms of her hip and her hind leg. Her top line balance is better than the one that comes behind her. Really, my biggest problem with her is she's got a little bit of chest. Past that, I really couldn't find major issues with her because I think her rib, her body type is good. She's got some dimension out of her hip. I think she's plenty stout enough in terms of her structure. She's got a little extra set to her hind leg, but I still think one of the most comfortable ones in here that still has some look and balance. Clean her up a little bit at the base of her chest. Now at the standstill, the young lady's in second. Probably to me, whenever you just look down the lineup of them, kind of looks like the one that stands out that could become the class winner whenever they're just stopped and put together at the profile, because of all four of them, whenever you get in behind them, she's the biggest, she's the stoutest out of her hips, she's the stoutest in her structure. She just doesn't get out and move quite good enough. And I thought that, hey, she's sound enough and functional enough. I think she can be at the top end of the class, because at the standstill, I think she makes a case to win. She's a little too upright in her front end and gets a little tighter in her spine in motion, but you look at her right there. Look of quality is good. Stoutness and genuine shape, I think, is arguably the best in the class. I just want to change her a little bit, lay her back in her knee, relax her spine just a shot. In terms of freshness, look and refinement up front, body depth and sweep back to the rear ribbon flank, this heifer is as good as anything. And I could see somebody landing on her to win the class because of those things. For me and how I like them, and of the four, she becomes easily probably the frailest in terms of her bone work, a little smaller in terms of her foot. She too wants to sneak up just a little bit in her front end and maybe get just a little flatter right behind her shoulder. But I thought refinement and freshness is really good, and probably had just a shot more freshness of condition than the one that comes in for. And man, I like this heifer. She's good bodied. She's big boned. I think she was the first one that came in, and I thought, man, we could land on this one, because I do like her stoutness of structure. I like her body type. The longer we study her, she becomes just a little bit plainer at the base of her chest, the way she ties it to the top side of her shoulder. Whenever we step in behind her, she's probably not quite as fresh or genuine in terms of her natural dimension, her hip and her pin set, as I'd probably like to see her. So I got just where I could pick just a few more holes in her. You're doing an awesome job of getting her shown out here. I thought that was an extremely good class. All four of them very, very nice. Congratulations to each one of those exhibitors.
Your results for class number 9 of your junior Maine early spring yearling heifers: 4th place 2017 from Lander Fitzsimmons, 3rd 2020 from Brenna Herndon, 2nd place 2021 from Tessa Delmore, and your class winner was 2023 from Simon Thorenson. At this time, we will now bring up class number 10. These will be junior Maine junior yearling heifers, calved February of 2024. We'll have a single entry that makes up class number 10. It'll be entry 2025 from Ryan Carlson of Julesburg, Colorado. This is our last class within the division of junior yearling heifers.
Well, a nice single entry the young lady brings us, one that's really, really powerful in terms of the way she comes out of the backside of her shoulder. I love her center body substance and turn. She's got a big, stout hind leg, and she's big and stout out of her hip and her pin set. We could loosen her up just a little bit more in motion and make her just a little more comfortable, but I think a lot of good in her. Be excited to see her back here in just a second.
Results coming in for class number 10, first place, 2025 from Ryan Carlson. At this time, we'll now bring back our class winners from classes 8, 9, and 10. Our judge will select your champion and reserve champion junior yearling heifers. Coming back from class number 8, first place would be 2016 from Kelton Arthur. The second place being 2015 from Cutter Dorsey. From class number 9, first place 2023 from Simon Thorison. Second place 2021 from Tessa Delmore. And coming from your last class that was just in the ring, class 10, first place 2025 from Ryan Carlson. Those are your entries that are in consideration for your junior yearling heifer champions.
Well, another good lineup, and probably a division that had just a little more challenge. Really, I guess in that second class, probably as tough of decisions that I've had to make so far. We'll talk through them here briefly. We got done talking the first class and the pair in there, both very nice, but still felt very good about which one needed to win. I love this heifer's look and balance. She is the best looking one in terms of her neck set, her look and presence and femininity up front. And then for as clean as she is at the base of her chest and fresh as she is in her condition, man, I think it's very impressive how good she is. And the turn and boldness to her forerib, the sweep and boldness back to her rear rib and flank dimension from behind, and maintains that look just as good in motion as she does standing still. So I like that class winner a lot. Both of those heifers were very nice. We just got done talking the second class a minute ago and talked about how all four of those were really good. The young man's that won became the one that was the hardest for me to pick a hole in. I don't know if when we bring her back out here, we compare her to the cattle on either side of her, if she has as many ESTs. But for me, when things get close and decisions become closer, I always fall back on structure. I thought within that class, she became the one that was the best, especially whenever we talked about hip and hind leg. Even though she's got just a little extra set to her hind leg, I thought she was easily the most comfortable. I like her rib and her body type. Clean her up a little bit at the base of her chest, but really nice outside of that. And then at the standstill, one that I thought you could make a case for to win whenever she stopped and put together, because she's good looking and she was as stout and powerful as anything in that class. Didn't move quite good enough for me to go ahead and land on her to win. And then the single entry that came out of the last class, we talked about her. Tremendous in the turn to her rib, her stoutness, a muscle shape, stoutness, a hind leg is all really, really good. A question mark on her compared to the two in front of her. Does she move quite as good as either of those other class winners? I think probably not, but at the standstill, I certainly like a lot of things about her. For me, there's one out here I think you better land on. The young man's out of the first class is going to be champion. We'll follow up with the young man's out of the second class for reserve.
Your Maine and champion junior yearling heifer comes out of class number 8. That is 2016 from Kelton Arthur. The reserve comes from class number 9. That is entry 2023 from Simon Thorson. At this time, we'll now work to bring all of our division winners back, and our judge will take the time to deliberate and select your Grand and Reserve Grand Champion Junior Maine heifers. Making their way into the ring once again is going to be your division champions. From your first division of junior heifer calves, your champion 1995 from Braden Tabor. The reserve being 2003 from Cambria Cook. From your second division of fall heifers, that's your champion 2007 from Henry Mickle. From your third division of summer yearling heifers, your champions 2014 from Jackson Walker, with the reserve being 2010 from Kate Sherrill. And from your fourth and final division of junior yearling heifers, your champions 2016 from Kelton Arthur, and the reserve being 2023 from Simon Thorson. Those are your division winners. For your judge to now deliberate and select your Grand and Reserve Grand Champion Junior Maine-Anjou heifers.
Well, we've got a really nice lineup. Whenever we bring our champions and our reserves back out here, I'll visit through them here briefly so you guys know what's going through my mind. I thought we set the bar very high in the first division, and as many good ones as there were, there was probably 4, 5, 6 calves that were in that division that I'd be really excited to have at my barn and continue to work with and see how they change. But as good as they were, man, I liked the one that won and felt pretty good about landing on her in terms of build and structure and flexibility, I think she's as good as anything that we saw today, and still I think pieces together extremely high quality. I love her body type. I think there's a ton of upside in her, and she hits me extremely hard today. And then I thought the decision for reserve became somewhat closer. The one that was reserve in there, I really appreciate how smooth she was from her shoulder to her forerib and out of her hip. I like that she comes with some natural dimension, some stoutness of bone work. Both of those in that division, very nice. We just had one there in our second division, our fall-born heifer, and I thought in terms of stoutness, of structure, and having some substance, I certainly like her. I don't know if she pieces together quite as unique in terms of her balance as the cattle on either side of her, but she certainly has some breeding pieces that I think will be fun to work around for you, young man. Our next division had a lot of different types and kinds. I think we just had a handful in there. Landed on one that probably combined some of the things that I liked about both of those heifers in the first class, in terms of probably being one of the cattle that pieced together with some balance, and then being one of the cattle I liked a little bit better in terms of substance, stoutness of bone work. I don't know if she's quite feminine enough in terms of the top side of her neck and her shoulder. I don't know if she's quite laid in good enough in her front end, but I still think some good pieces in her. And then our final division, probably as tough of decisions that had to be made in there as any other, but like I said, kind of in the first division, as tough as some of those were, the decision on which one we needed to land on was not close for me. And I like this heifer a good deal, and I think what's impressive about her, it doesn't matter what angle or view that you've got of her, whether it's at the standstill, from the side, whether it's from behind, whether she's in motion, man, she is really, really impressive how fresh she is, and still how tremendous and bold and stout with the right kind of substance. I just think a lot of good in her. And then the young man's that was reserve. I thought from really her shoulder back, rib and body type, structure and flexibility, that's a heifer that I have no doubt is going to continue to get better, especially as she transitions to being a cow. I wouldn't have any concerns about her. Like we said, clean her up just a little bit at the base of her chest. I don't know if she's quite as heavy structured as some of the other ones out here, but still, I think a heifer that's really nice, and in my mind became pretty hard to pick a major hole in. So that's how the cattle hit me. I know we've got a couple more shows to work through, but I just want to say thank you for the opportunity to be here today. The National Western means so much to me, my family. I've been out here with our judging team. They're headed back. My mom's here with me. My dad and my brother are getting fat steers ready, and so this show holds a really special place in my heart and my family's hearts, and I'm sure it's the same for our exhibitors and our breeders. And so I just want to say thank you for the opportunity to be out here. So I'll put this down. I'll quit talking. I'll show you the couple that I like, if you would. Please congratulate all of our exhibitors that we have out here, a tremendous lineup of heifers.
Your Grand Champion Junior Maine-Anjou heifer comes from your last division, 2016, from Kelton Arthur. Your reserve Grand Champion Junior Maine-Anjou heifer comes out of your first division of junior heifer calves. That is entry 1995 from Braden Tabor. Congratulations to our exhibitors. I believe at this time we will have pictures of the backdrop with our champions, and then we will roll into our Maine Angus female show. We welcome our exhibitors back into the ring. This is going to be Class 11 of our Maine-Angus female show. These are junior Maine-Angus spring heifer calves, calved in May of 2025. We'll have two entries that make this class up. It'll be 2030 from Court Bronsroth of Gill, Colorado, and 2031 from Hudson Reimers of Lincoln, Nebraska.
Well, a good pair to get us started here in our Maine-Angus show, and going to leave them the way they came in. Young man's right in front of me is going to lead us off. And I think between the two, just in terms of build and flexibility and body type, I think she's got an advantage in all of those areas today compared to the young man's in second. I think our class winner's laid back a little bit better in her knee. She's a little deeper in her heart and back into her flank, and just a little bit better in the way she uses her hind leg. Now, she could be just a little stouter in terms of her bone work for me, but I think that's a nice heifer to start us off. A lot of upside in this one, good looking up front. She does have some stoutness of bone work. She's just a little too upright in her front end, a little more tentative in the way she sets down in her hind leg, and then just a little greener in terms of her rib and her body type right now. But nice pair to get us started. Congratulations to both of those exhibitors.
Results for Class 11 of your junior Maine-Angus spring heifers, second place 2031 from Hudson Reimers. And your class winner was 2030 from Court Bronsroth. Now moving into the ring will be class number 12 of junior Maine-Angus spring heifer calves, calved April of 2025. Within class 12, we will have entries 2033, which comes from Hadley Vogel of Rockport, Indiana, and 2034 comes from Kendall Lienhardt of Fortville, Indiana. Those are your two entries that will make up class number 12.
Well, a good pair here in this class, leaving them the way they came in. I think really where I feel comfortable doing so is when they're in motion. The young ladies that leads off, I think just maintains her balance a bit better in the way she comes out of her shoulder, ties her neck, and then between the two, comes back a little softer back into her flank, sets down a little more comfortable in her rear ankle, probably a little bigger in terms of her foot size. And so for me, just structure flexibility allows her to kind of surface between the two. From behind, I really like the young man's is going to be second because she's got a really good shape coming down her top. She's stout out of her hip, and so I really like her power and her natural dimension build-wise. A little smaller footed, a little tighter in her ankle, and then from this angle, she wants to cut up just a shot more back into her flank. We could change her just a shot structurally deep in her flank, and I think if we do that, her structure and balance becomes just a shot better. Congratulations to both of them. Two nice heifers there in that class.
The results coming in for class number 12 of your spring heifers. Second place 2034 from Kendall Leanhart. And your class winner was 2033 from Hadley Vogel. In the ring at this time now is going to be class 13 of junior Maine-Anjou spring heifer calves, calved March of 2025. We'll have a single entry that makes up class 13. This will be 2037, coming from Riley Short of Masonville, Iowa.
Well, just a single entry. Go ahead and talk about her because she's a little anxious out here by herself. But I'll be excited to see her when she comes back and settles down a little bit, hopefully, because I think especially whenever she gets stopped and put together, man, she's got a really good look. Her neck set's good. I love her rib and her body type and just her freshness there. If I'm going to pick on her in motion, I wish we could change her foot and her ankle so she sat down just a little more attractively. I think her build is plenty functional. She just wants to knuckle up a bit on her rear ankle. There. A nice heifer. I'll be excited to see her back here in just a second.
Results for class 13 of junior Maine-Anjou spring heifer calves. First place 2037 from Riley Short. Now moving into the ring would be class 14. These are junior Maine-Anjou spring heifer calves, calved January through February of 2025. We'll have entries 2039 comes from Cohen Corbett of Liberty City Center, Indiana. 2041 comes from Ryan Carlson of Julesburg, Colorado. 2042 will come from Ramey from Darlington, Wisconsin. And 2043 will come from Katie Pryor of Woodbine, Iowa. Those are your four entries that make up your class.
Well, another good class, and we had a class that was kind of similar in our last show, where all four of them were really good. And if I had to take any four of these home, I'd feel pretty good and pretty proud about what I had. And so these could get shuffled around a few different ways depending on how they hit you. And there's things that I like about each of these a good deal. I thought whenever we got it down boiled to these two from the side, the heifer that we land on, I thought just in terms of her neck set, she probably runs, I guess, not to sound sheepy, but she's just a little taller at the point of her shoulder. I like her neck set. I love her stoutness of structure and the look that she puts together at the profile. Whenever she gets put together, man, she's got an awesome look. Love her stoutness of structure. I think she's got a good shape up high. She wants to close up just a little bit down to the ground. We could open her up just a little bit more there, but a lot of good in her to win this class. The heifer in second, I like a good deal too, and I think she'll only continue to get better. And like we said on our class winner, wanting to close up just a little bit from behind. I probably think this one's a bit better in that regard. She's wanting to get out and set down just a little funny on her rear ankle from time to time, and I don't know if that's just because she's not really used to this surface or if she just wants to knuckle up there a little bit. And then I thought compared to our class winner, she runs downhill just a tad bit, but man, I still think very nice, high quality. I love her stoutness out of her hip and her pin set, just those couple of little things. The heifer that comes in three probably looks more like our class winner even than the one in second. I thought she had a good look up front as well. I like her stoutness of structure. I thought she wanted to come up and twist out just a little bit more in her front end, come apart just a shot more at the top side of her shoulder in motion, just those couple of little things really threw out of balance, I guess, in motion more than at the standstill. The young ladies that rounds out the class, it hurts my heart to have a heifer like this with her kind of hip and hind leg structure this far down in the class, but because boy, she is probably maybe the best in terms of the way she sets down on her rear ankle. But I thought of the four, she became just the plainest in terms of her look up front, her head and her neck and her shoulder, the way she tied it into her shoulder there. Still very, very nice all the way through. Congratulations to all four of those exhibitors.
Your results for class number 14 of Junior Maine Angus. Fourth place, 2041 from Ryan Carlson. Third place, 2042 from Remy Niffinger. Second place, 2039 from Cohen Korber. And your class winner was 2043 from Katie Pryor. At this time within our show, we will now bring up our class winners from 11, 12, 13, and 14, and our judge will select your champion and reserve champion junior heifer calves.
Well, a good lineup that we have out here and a lot of good cattle that we sorted through to get here. And like I said, there was a few spots where things were a little bit closer and you could maybe shuffle things around just depending on how they hit you today or maybe how you see these changing down the road. But nonetheless, I think all very, very nice. We'll talk through them here real briefly. Started off with two heifers in the first class and felt good about landing on the young man's that won. Thought in terms of body type and structure, she was the one that needed to win in there. Now, I think when we compare to the cattle that come behind her, I don't know if she's quite as attractive up front or stout in her bone work, but just in terms of covering the fundamentals, she does a good job, and she'll only continue to get better because of those things. The heifer that came out of the second class, where she won, it was in terms of her build and between those two, balancing up just a little bit better in terms of her lower body, back into her flank, and then the way she got out and used her lower joint work. I think she's as good as anything that we have out here. I think that heifer is really, really nice. I don't know if she hits me with maybe the extra bells and whistles that we've seen in a few of the other ones, but I think a heifer that whenever you just talk about in terms of build and flexibility and body type, man, you got to appreciate her, one that certainly is in the mix in my mind. The young ladies that came out of the next class, I'm glad she settled down. We got her some friends out here. She's feeling a little bit better because, man, she's really good looking, and I knew she would be once she settled down. She's got an awesome look up front. I think she transitions from her shoulder into her forerib, out of her hip really good. Probably where I pick on her is whenever we get her in motion, I wish she was just a little bit and set down with just a little more softness to her rear ankle to make me say I love her regardless if she's standing still or in motion. Probably in motion I'm a little more critical of her because of that, but man, if we just judge her at the standstill, she's absolutely making a case for me out here. We just got done talking our final class and talked about how there was 4 heifers in that class. I liked all, a really, really good deal, and probably the one I landed on hit me with the right kind of presence, the right kind of balance. I like her stoutness of structure. I like her look up front and her body type. She balances, I think, really, really well. I talked about how she wants to close up just a little bit from behind, and I thought that's where the second in that class really complimented her, because she's as genuine in terms of her body shape, her muscle type, and dimension as anything. I still think has a good look. Wanting to fight the halter just a little bit, and she can set down and come up just a little bit more on her rear ankle, but there is still very, very good. For me, I think there's a pair I thought were good. I thought they were close and very competitive. We'll keep those 2 out of the last class together for Grand and Reserve. Congratulations.
Your champion junior heifer calf comes out of class 14, 2043, from Katie Pryor. The reserve champion comes also from class 14, that is 2039, from Cohen Korber. Congratulations to our division winners. We will clear out our ring and make way for class 15 of junior Maine-Angus summer yearling heifers, which will have been calved May of 2024. Now walking in the ring is class 15 of junior Maine-Angus summer yearling heifers, calved May of 2024. We'll have a single entry that makes up class 15. This is 2047 from Asher Short of Masonville, Iowa.
Well, a pretty nice single entry. I think could have stood a little bit of competition. She's really nice. And whenever you get her parked and put together like that, there's a lot you got to like about her because her neck set's good. I love her rib and her body type and softness and sweep back to her rear rib and flank. Really, she still reads pretty fresh in terms of her condition. And I think from the side, she gets out and reaches good. She gets a little wide from behind. We could make her stay within herself just a little bit more there, but a really, really nice single entry. I'll be very excited to see her back here in a little bit. Congratulations.
Results for Class 15 of Junior Maine-Angus Summer Yearling Heifers. First place and your champion Summer Yearling Heifer is entry 2047, coming from Asher Short of Masonville, Iowa. We'll now move on to our next division, which would be Class 16 of Junior Maine-Angus Late Spring Yearling Heifers, calved April of 2024. Within this Class 16, we'll have entries 2048 from Maggie Griswold of Stillwater, Oklahoma, and 2049 comes from Kate Sherrill of Pawnee, Oklahoma.
Well, a good pair here are going to leave them the way they came in. The young ladies up front, I just think probably needs to win within the pair, especially whenever we get them stopped and put together. I think she balances just a little bit better in terms of the depth of her heart, the sweep back to her rear rib and flank, and then her stoutness of structure. She just hits me with just a little more power, a little more substance everywhere you study her, and I think because she's got more of that, balance is just a bit better. I wish we could relax her back a little bit in her front end, make her reach just a little further out of her hind leg because, boy, if we do, I really like a lot of things about her standing still. I just wish she got out just a little bit easier, but really, really nice one to land on. The young ladies in second probably does get out and reach and flex. I think her build and her structure is good. She's just a little bit frailer, a shot shallower in terms of her rib and her body type, and gives up some of the extra power relative to the one that wins. Congratulations, both of those young ladies. A good pair of heifers there.
Your results for Class 16 of Junior Maine-Angus Late Spring Yearling Heifers. Second place, 2049 from Kate Sherrill. Class winner was 2048 from Maggie Griswold. Now moving in the ring would be Class 17 of Junior Maine-Angus Early Spring Yearling Heifers, calved March of 2024. We'll have two entries that make up Class 17. 2051 comes from Kimberly Gray of Hayden, Colorado. And 2053 will come from McKinley Stoller of Palisade, Nebraska.
Well, a good pair. Again, going to leave these the way they came in. I think the black heifer reads just a little fresher in terms of her condition, her presentation, her hair coat. I think all those things aid to her just a little bit. And I think reading her down her top line in motion, she's probably just a little more collected in her spine. I like her lower body balance, and she's just a little fresher, I think, there. She's a little crestier and thicker at the top side of her neck. She gets just a shot of extra set to her hind leg, but I still probably think I prefer her reach and comfort between the pair whenever we get them out in motion. Just refine her a shot more at the top side of her neck and her shoulder. The heifer in second is tremendous in terms of her body, her substance. She's got some stoutness of bone work. For me, she's probably just pushing a little more condition. She didn't hit me quite as fresh, and then we could loosen her up in motion. She gets just a shot tighter in her spine, not quite as comfortable in the way she gets out of her front end as well. So just some little back and forth things between those two, but congratulations to both of those exhibitors. Two nice heifers there in that class.
Results for Class 17 of Junior Maine-Angus Early Spring Yearling Heifers. Second place, 2053, comes from McKinley Stoller. And your class winner was 2051 from Kimberly Gray. In the ring at this time now will be Class 18 of Junior Maine-Angus Junior Yearling Heifers, calved January to February of 2024. Of a single entry in this class, that entry is 2055 from Cambria Cook of Clovis, California. This is our last class in the division of Junior Yearling Heifers.
Well, a very, very nice single entry. I like a good deal. And there's your look at her now that she's getting pulled together. She is really good looking in the way she ties her neck to the top side of her shoulder, but then tremendous in terms of the depth of her heart, the sweep back to her rear rib and flank. I really like the stoutness of her hind leg and still how comfortable she is whenever she gets into motion. So a really, really nice heifer. I think does a lot of good things. Be excited to see her back here in just a minute.
Results for Class 18 of Junior Maine-Angus Junior Yearling Heifers. First place, 2055 from Cambria Cook. At this time, we will now bring back our class winners from classes 16, 17, and 18. Our judge will select your champion Junior Yearling Heifers. Coming back from Class 16, first place, 2048, comes from Maggie Griswold. Second place, 2049, from Kate Sherrill. From Class 17, first place, 2051, from Kimberly Gray. Second place being 2053 from McKinley Stoller. And coming back from that last class of 18, first place, 2055, from Cambria Cook.
Well, a nice lineup that we have out here as we continue working through and getting into some bigger heifers, and I'll visit through them a little bit. We talked about the first class and that pair landed on the young ladies, just a little more stoutness, a little more power and substance everywhere you study her. And I think if we're going to pick on her, I wish we could change her just a little bit in terms of her build. She wants to get just a little more open up front. She's not quite as just flexible as I'd probably like to see her, but it's hard to keep them perfect when they've got that kind of stoutness and power. So I appreciate what she brings to the table in terms of substance. A nice second place to complement her that's still flexible, just not quite as many extras in terms of, structure and stoutness, center body substance. The second class we talked through, and the young ladies that won that class did so just in terms of freshness. I thought she hit me just a little fresher in terms of her condition, and then probably maintained her top line and spine a little bit better whenever the cattle get into motion. We talked about how she could be neater at the top side of her neck and in her shoulder, and she gets just a shot of extra set in her hind legs. So those things that probably get just a little more critical of her out here in this setting, but I still think does some nice things. We had a single entry out of our final class, and in my opinion, one that definitely could have stood some competition. I think really nice in terms of her neck set. Really, just whenever you talk about drawing up a really good silhouette from the side, I think she's as good as anything that we've got out here, because she's beautiful in terms of her neck set. Her lower body balance is awesome from the base of her chest back into her rear rib and flank. I love her there. I like her stoutness, her bone work. She's kind of got that wavy hair, and I know that that's nobody's fault at all, but it throws her off just a little bit. And then from behind, she could probably be just a little stouter to her pin set. She wants to pull her hock in just a shot, but that's a couple of little nitpicky things. A heifer that I like a really, really good deal. So I think there's some differences out here. For me, the young lady single entry out of the last class is going to be our champion. We'll follow up with the young ladies out of first class for reserve. Congratulations.
Your champion junior yearling heifer is going to come out of class 18, that is 2055, from Cambria Cook. The reserve champion junior yearling heifer is going to come out of class 16. That is going to be entry 2048 from Maggie Griswold. At this time, we will now work to bring our division winners back, and our judge will select your grand and reserve grand champion junior Maine-Anjou females. Moving about the ring now would be your division champions. From your first division of Maine-Anjou junior heifer calves, your champions 2043 from Katie Pryor. The reserve being 2039 from Cohen Kober. From your second division, your Maine-Anjou champion summer yearling heifer is entry 2047 from Asher Short. And in your third and final division, your champion junior yearling heifer 2055 from Cambria Cook. And the reserve champion junior yearling heifer is 2048 from Maggie Griswold.
Well, a very nice lineup that we have out here, and I think 5 heifers that are all really, really nice, and some differences between each of them. I'll visit through them just a little bit here. We started off in our first division with several heifers I thought were really, really good. These two came out of the same class, and I thought needed to probably keep them together because I thought there was give and take between the pair, and I like both of them, and probably for different reasons. And I think as they continue to grow and further in their careers, they'll probably change a little bit. And so I thought both of them very nice. The young ladies that we landed on, I thought awesome in terms of her look up front. I liked her stoutness, her structure, and I thought she was good in terms of having some stoutness, some dimension out of her upper hip and pin set, and kind of matching that to her stoutness of structure down low. She's getting a little bit tired out here, and I think she's maybe not perfect in the way her neck ties to the top of her shoulder. And then we talked about how she wants to close up just a little bit down low. And I think the heifer that was reserved in there really complements her in some of those things, because I do think she ties her neck good. She's good from behind. And we talked about her. She wants to run downhill just a little bit, and then she gets just a little tentative in the way she sets down on her rear ankle from time to time. But man, there's your look at her. Still very, very good. I thought both of those from the first division were awfully nice. We had a single entry there in our second division, and one that I thought could have stood some competition, and she's absolutely in the mix out here for me, because I do think that in terms of freshness, she's as good as anything that we saw. I like her rib and her body type. I think that from the side, the travel of her hip and her hind leg is really, really good, and her angles all read correct. We talked about how she wants to get just a little wide from time to time from behind, and we could maybe clean her up just a nickel at the base of her chest, but I think that that's a heifer that's really nice. She does a lot of good things for me, especially in terms of covering the basics and still hitting me with some quality and presence out here. I like this heifer, especially whenever we study her from the side in terms of stoutness, of structure, and body type. Man, she is really, really good and puts together just as good of a silhouette as anything that we probably have out here in contention. For me, where we're going to get critical of her, I don't know if she hits me quite as fresh as the one in front of her. She could be a little square out of her hip and her pin set, and just a little more genuine in terms of her dimension. She wants to get closed up just a little bit from behind down to the ground. So if we're going to pick on her, that's probably where I'm going to do it. But man, and whenever you just look down the lineup of them, studying them at the side, she is really easy to tie into, because she's good looking, she's stout boned, she's good bodied. So I think the decision out here becomes somewhat competitive. Like I said, there's some differences in terms of type and kind. There's things that I like in each of these that are all just a little bit different. So I'm going to take one more look at them. I'll show you the ones that I like. If you would, please congratulate our exhibitors. Excellent show here in our Maine-Angus division.
Your grand champion junior Maine-Angus female comes from your second division of summer yearling heifers. That is 2047 from Asher Short. Your reserve grand champion junior Maine-Angus female comes from your junior yearling division. That is your champion 2055 from Cambria Cook. Congratulations to our exhibitors. We will take a momentary pause at the backdrop with our official imaging team over at the Legacy Livestock backdrop. Once our images have concluded with our judge and exhibitors, we will pick right back up with our Class 19, which should be our junior maintainer female show. We welcome back our exhibitors and our judge to the show ring. We're going to start off with class number 19 of junior maintainer spring heifer calves. Class number 19 will be calved May of 2025. We'll have a single entry that'll make up class 19. This will be 2058, coming from Haley Walker of Hudson, Colorado.
Well, just a single entry to get us started here in our maintainer show. But I think one really nice, my biggest criticism, she just doesn't want to act like a show heifer yet. And so hopefully she'll get more comfortable, especially once we get her some friends out here. She's got a great look up front in terms of her head, her ear set, her neck set. She's really good. You've done a great job of getting her presented. A little bit green yet in terms of her rib and her body type, but I still think a lot of good in her. Congratulations.
Results for class number 19 of junior maintainer spring heifer calves. First place 2058 from Haley Walker. Coming in the ring now is class 20. These are junior maintainer spring heifer calves, calved April of 2025. Within this class, we'll have entries 2061 from Maggie Griswold of Stillwater, Oklahoma. 2063 from Jace Blazer of Chippewa Falls, Wisconsin. 2064 comes from Leighton Crawford of Divide, Colorado. And rounding out your class is 2065 from Katie Pryor of Woodbine, Iowa. Those are your entries that make up class 20.
Well, a good class. I think you need to have these two at the top end of the class, and there's advantages for both of them. The one that we land on, I think pieces together, especially in terms of her neck set, her top line balance, just a little bit more consistently than the young ladies that comes behind her. Man, she is beautiful in terms of her head, her refinement up front, the way she ties it into her shoulder, and then compared to the two, I think she's naturally just a little more consistent from hooks to pins. She maintains her balance really nicely in motion. A little bit green right now in terms of her body type, mainly back into her flank. She gets just a little shallower there and just a little greener. And so if you want to switch the pair, it's because the young ladies in second is the best in the turn, the depth, the boldness to her rear rib and flank. I love that about her. I think that her build and flexibility is not a problem. She's just fighting the halter quite a bit today and doesn't want to get out and go. She wants to come up and roll out of her hip just a little bit, and she does a great job of keeping her loined and keeping her down, but she does want to naturally come up and round out there just a little bit, just a little uncomfortable, I think, with a new service and how she gets out and sets down. A moderate, big-bodied heifer that comes next, just a little plainer relative to the two that go out in front of her. Didn't hit me quite as hard initially in terms of her look, maybe not quite as stout in terms of her bone work, but I love her rib and her body type, her moderation. Then we round out the class. The young lady's got one that's not wanting to cooperate the best, but you're doing a good job of keeping a hold of her. One that's got some stoutness, she's got some extension. She probably becomes just a little piecier in terms of the way she puts everything together, especially in terms of her top line balance, getting just a little rounder there out of her hip. Good class there, especially on the top end. Congratulations to those exhibitors.
Your results for Class 20 of your junior maintainer spring heifer calves: fourth place, 2064 from Leighton Crawford. Third place, 2063 from Jace Blazer. Second place, 2061 from Maggie Griswold. And your class winner was 2065 from Katie Pryor. Moving in the ring now is Class 21 of junior maintainer spring heifer calves, calved March of 2025. In this class, we'll have entries 2069 from Kaylee Landini of Fruita, Colorado. 2070 comes from Brentley Brunsworth of Gill, Colorado. 2072 comes from Leighton Crawford of Divide, Colorado. 2073 comes from Cohen Colbert of Liberty Center, Indiana. And 2075 comes from Tate Kerschel of Peyton, Colorado. Those are your entries that will make up class number 21.
Well, a good class here. We got some differences in type and kind, but some really, really nice ones, especially here on the top end. I like these ones standing out in front of me. I think the one we land on, though, is the one that probably combines some stoutness, some natural dimension. She's big hipped. She's got a good shape coming down her top and out of her hip. And then I think whenever you step off to the side, compare her to the heifer behind her. A little more extension, a shot more refinement and femininity up front. I love that splash of color. When she was coming in and I saw her face, I was thinking, man, I hope I like everything else because I love her head. I love that color, and she is really, really nice. She gets where she fights the halter just a little bit and maybe wants to get just a little more upright sometimes and just a little awkward in the way she gets out and goes, but I think that heifer is really, really nice. I'll be excited to see her back here in just a little bit. The heifer in second strikes me a little more like a market heifer looking, and it's very easy for me to like her because she looks a little bit more like a little fat steer kind. I love the stoutness, the structure, the denseness. You know, she's big and stout out of her hip, and so for me, it's very easy to gravitate towards her, a kind like that. I don't think she's quite feminine enough, though, up front, and then in terms of her lower body balance, she wants to cut up just a little bit more back into her flank, but I certainly love the unique pieces that she brings to the table. I thought that's why she needed to be closer at the top end of the class. The heifer that comes next probably is just a little more traditional headed and necked for a breeding heifer relative to the one that goes in front of her. She's just a little deeper back into her flank even. I didn't read her as unique in terms of her stoutness of foot, stoutness of structure, and then she wants to fight the halter too and get just a little more awkward in the way she gets out and goes. I wish she would settle down for the young lady because I do think there's some good pieces there. There's some presence and freshness in the one that comes next. She's got a good shape and really good in the turn to her body. Her dimension from behind, she is not lacking in terms of dimension and power. I think she gets frailer in terms of her bone work and wants to push out too much in her hock. I wish we could make her a little stouter in terms of her foot and bone to match what she has up high. And then we round out the class with a black and white heifer. Got some extension, probably becomes the stalest out here, and just a little more general in terms of her look and her presence relative to the ones that go out in front of her. That was a good class there. Congratulations to those exhibitors.
Results for Class 21 of Junior Maintainer Spring Heifer Calves. 5th place, 2072 from Leighton Crawford. 4th, 2075 from Tate Carshall. 3rd place, 2069 from Kaylee Landini. 2nd place, 2070 comes from Brentley Bronsroth. And your class winner was 2073 from Cohen Kober. Now moving into the ring will be Class 22. These will be Junior Maintainer Spring Heifer Calves, calved February of 2025. Within this class, we'll have entries 2079 from Lander Fitzsimmons of Perry, Oklahoma. 2081 comes from Piper Warren of Kiowa, Colorado. 2082 from Jance Mossbarger of Goodland, Kansas. 2083 comes from Kendall Linhart of Fortville, Indiana. And 2085 will come from Jance Mossbarger of Goodland, Kansas.
Well, another really good class. And again, all four of them, very, very nice. I like each of them quite a bit. These two at the top end were the ones that hit me with just a shot more refinement and just a little more look of quality up front, head, neck set. And the young man's it's going to lead off once she got settled down and we got her comfortable in here. Man, she is easy to want to gravitate towards because she stays the same in terms of her balance, in terms of her neck set, top line, the way she gets out and goes. When she's stopped and collected at the standstill, she's beautiful balance, and then her lower joint work and flexibility is really, really good, which allows her to get out and stay comfortable in her spine and really good in her neck set. I'm glad we got her comfortable and settled down because I like her quite a bit. I'll be excited to see her back here in just a little bit. A really nice heifer that's second, and I think kind of mirrors a lot of the things that I like about our class winner in terms of look and presence, refinement up front. Her rib and body type and the depth and sweep back to her rear rib and flank is good. Her structure and flexibility is really, really nice. She wants to roll ever so slightly out of her hip from time to time, get just a little flatter from behind, but I thought both of those were really, really nice. I like both of them a good deal. The heifer that comes next, maybe just a little stouter from behind, a shot more stoutness of bone work. I thought she got just a little more general in terms of her look up front, maybe just a shot more open at the top side of her shoulder. If we could change that, maybe give her just a shot more flank. I think from her chest to her flank sometimes falls just a shot out of balance. Man, there's still a lot of good in her to be third in class. That's still a very, very nice heifer. And we round out with another one that's good in terms of her body shape. She's got some dimension. She probably falls out of balance the most and then becomes the most uncomfortable whenever we get her out. And that was a good class there. Congratulations to all of those exhibitors.
Your results for Class 22 of Junior Maintainer Spring Heifer Calves. Fourth place, 2083 from Kendall Leonhardt. Third place, 2081 from Piper Warren. Second place, 2079 from Lander Fitzsimmons. And your class winner was 2082 from Jens Mossbarger. Now in the ring at this time will be Class 23. This is Junior Maintainers Spring Heifer Calves, calved January of 2025. We have a single entry in this class, 2076 from Maggie Griswold of Stillwater, Oklahoma.
Well, a good single entry that we have here, especially stopped and presented at the profile. I like her look and her presence up front. I think her rib and her body type is good. A very highly presented heifer that's got some quality. If we're going to pick on her in motion, she wants to come up in her spine, get just a little more awkward in the way she uses her hip and her hind leg. So we could change her there to make her maintain her balance just perfect in motion. But still, another high quality heifer. Be excited to see her back here in just a second.
Results for Class 23. First place, 2076 from Maggie Griswold. At this time, we'll work now to bring back our class winners from classes 19, 20, 21, 22, and 23. Our judge will select your champion junior heifer calves. Returning back from class number 19, 2058 from Haley Walker. From class 20, first place 2065 from Katie Pryor. The reserve the second place 2061 from Maggie Griswold. From class 21, first place 2073 from Cohen Coburn. Second place was 2070 from Brentley Brunsworth. From class 22, first place 2082 from Jance Mossbarger. Second place was 2079 from Lander Fitzsimmons. And coming out of class 23, first place was 2076 from Maggie Griswold.
Well, a good lineup of cattle. Talk through them here just so everybody knows kind of how they hit me and the differences. We've got several in contention out here that I think all have things to really appreciate. We started off in the first class with one that's got some look and presence and quality up front. I think her better days are on down the road, and I think when we compare to the cattle that come behind her, just a little green yet in terms of her rib and her body type, but some good things in her, just a little green yet today. I thought there was a good pair there in the second class that had some differences between them. The one we landed on, I thought in terms of balance, especially neck set, top line balance, and consistency of top line and hooks to pins, she was just a little more natural and consistent there in the way she came, especially out of her hip and her hind leg. I think that heifer's got plenty enough for right now at this stage of the game. I don't expect a heifer calf to come in and just be, the boldest and the sappiest. I think that she's at a good, stage, but she does probably give up just a little bit of flank compared to some of the other ones that come behind her, and even the one that stood second to her. And I like the heifer that was second. She was really good in terms of her full rib, her body type. Wants to get a little lazy and a little rounder there out of her hip, but that was a good pair that came out of the second class. We landed on the white face kind of snip nose heifer to win the third class, and I thought these two were the ones that surfaced. This heifer was just a little more feminine to me in terms of her head, her neck set, her extension. I like her stoutness, her structure. For me, where I probably get the most critical of her is when we get her in motion. I don't know if she moves just quite good enough for me. She wants to get just a little upright and open in her shoulder and just a little awkward in the way she uses her hind leg, but stopped and at the standstill, man, she puts together a good look. I love that splash of color. A nice heifer that came out of that class. Just question, is she quite sound enough for you? We got this heifer settled down just a little bit more and a shot more comfortable out here, and I think it's very easy to like her because she has got a neck a mile long that ties perfect right on the top side of her shoulder. Her lower body depth is good from her heart back into her flank, and then her build and flexibility from the ground up is as good as anything. She could maybe be just a little bolder right behind her shoulder in the turn to her forerib, but man, that's a very, very high quality heifer that's highly presented. Doesn't matter standing still, in motion. A good look of her is what you're going to get. And then a nice second place heifer I thought that really complimented her in terms of look and refinement, extension up front. Her body depth and sweep is good. She wants to dump her pins just a little bit whenever we get her in motion, but I still think a really, really nice heifer that follows up that class winner. We just got done talking our single entry out of the final class, stopped and collected at the profile. Good looking, good body type. Wish we could change her up just a shot more out of her hip and her hind leg, but I think there's still good to appreciate in her, a fresh, highly presented heifer. So I think that there's some decisions that become somewhat close. There's probably a handful of heifers out here that hit me just a little bit harder that are in contention in my mind. So I'm going to put this down and take one more look at them. If you would, congratulate our exhibitors. Really, really nice division.
Your champion junior heifer calf comes out of class 22. That is going to be your first place entry, 2082, from Jance Mossbarger. Your reserve champion junior heifer calf comes out of class 20. That is going to be the first place 2065 from Katie Pryor. Congratulations to our division winners. We'll now clear out a ring and make way for class 24. Now stepping into the ring would be Class 24. These are junior maintainer summer yearling heifers. They were calved May of 2024. Class 24 has a single entry. That entry comes from 2091 from Hannah Fox of Hutchinson, Minnesota. This is the only class in the division, so first place for Class 24 will become your champion summer yearling heifer.
Well, just a single entry in this class and in this division, but I think one that's still really nice, and especially whenever you get her stopped and put together, her neck set's good, her lower body balance is good, she's good on her heart, the sweep back to her rear rib and flank. I like her stoutness, a bone work, and so really she puts together a lot of nice things for me. She could maybe be just a little squarer, bolder in her upper fore rib, maybe get out of her front end just a little bit neater. She gets a little awkward there, but I think a really, really nice heifer. Be excited to see her back here in a little bit.
Results for Class 24, first place, and your champion summer yearling heifer is 2091 from Hannah Fox. We will now work on bringing in Class 25. Class 25 will be maintainers late spring yearling heifers, calved April of 2024. Within this Class 25, we'll have a single entry, 2094, comes from Emery Robinson of Liberty, Indiana.
Well, another nice single entry. I like this one a lot, just especially in terms of rib and body type and substance. She's got a stout hind leg, and she's still really flexible in the way she uses her hip and her hind leg. So I like that she combines some extra power, some extra substance, and still pieces it all together and gets out and uses her lower joint work and her build really nicely. She's got just a little bit of chest. We could neaten her up there, and she's maybe not the longest and the most choke neck, but I still think everything fits together really nicely in her. That's a good heifer. Be excited to see her back here in just a little bit.
Results for Class 25, first place, 2094 from Emery Robinson. Making their way into the ring at this time now will be Class 26 of junior maintainer early spring yearling heifers, calved March of 2024. Class 26 has two entries. 2101 comes from Turner Longacre of Kellyville, Oklahoma, and 2102 from Kaylee Jennings of Felicity, Ohio.
Well, a good pair of heifers, and again, really different in terms of type and kind. You can find some advantages for both of them. The young ladies that I land on, for me, she's just overwhelming everywhere you study her between the pair, just in terms of her center body substance, her sweep, dimension out of her hips, stoutness of hind leg, and I probably think that's probably where she has a big advantage between the pair. I like her extra stoutness of structure and foot size just a little bit better for the type and kind that I like. Hits me just a little bit better there, and I still think her neck set's good, even though she's got too much chest and she's pushing more condition. Her neck set and extension is still good. She wants to come up in her loin and round out of her hip. You do a good job of keeping her loin and trying to keep that down in her, but she does naturally want to get just a little bit rounder there, and so I think that's where you can find some differences. This heifer's cleaner at the base of her chest. She's more consistent from hooks to pins. She's leveler out of her hip. I didn't read her just quite as overwhelming from behind in terms of her foot, her bone work, just a little frailer there in terms of her build, but I thought those two were both very, very nice. You could go back and forth, but that's how they hit me. Congratulations to both of those exhibitors.
Results for Class 26 of Junior Maintainer Early Spring Yearling Heifers. Second place, 2101 from Turner Longacre. Class winner, 2102 from Kaylee Jennings. Moving in the ring now is Class 27 of Junior Maintainer Junior Yearling Heifers, calved February of 2024. Within Class 27, we'll have entries 2103 from Callie Tharp of Ovid, Colorado, 2104 from Ella Rogers of Burlington, Colorado, 2105 from Reed Pratt of Pueblo, Colorado, and rounding out our class is 2106 from Leighton Crawford of Divide, Colorado. Those are your entries that make up Class 27. Class 27 is the last class for the division of Junior Yearling Heifers.
Well, a good class here, and I think all four have some good things. I do think the heifer we land on, though, becomes the one in my mind probably needs to win. These two were probably the ones that hit me just a little harder initially when they came in, but I think the young man's that we land on, whenever you study her at the standstill and whenever you get in front of them, I think she's set back just a little bit better in her shoulder. She blends from her neck into her shoulder, into her forerib, just a shot smoother there. And then I think whenever we get her in motion, even though she comes up and gets a little awkward in her hind leg, I still think that her angles and flexibility is still the best in here. So for me, she becomes the place to land and feel pretty comfortable about it. She could be just a little more refined at the top side of her shoulder, just a little bit better there in the way she blends into the top of her shoulder. She gets a little open there, but I think a nice heifer to win this class. The one that's second, really stout and powerful. She's got a great shape coming out of the backside of her shoulder. She's big and stout out of her hip. For me, she's too open at the point of her shoulder, wants to come up just a little bit more in her front end. We could loosen her up in terms of her build to make her a shot more comfortable in motion, and I think if we do that, that pair becomes really, really close and very competitive. The heifer that comes next, another one, tremendous in terms of her rib, her body type, and substance. She, too, I want to change a little bit structurally and probably freshen her up just a shot more for her to rival those two in front of her. She hit me just a little bit staler. Need to change her in her hip and her hind leg so she sets down more comfortable. And then the young lady that rounds us out, another good one, good in terms of her top line balance. She's got some extension. She gives up the most just in terms of her center body, her forerib, flank, just needs a little bit more there to be able to run with those couple in front of her. Good class. Congratulations to all four of those exhibitors.
Results for Class 27, fourth place 2106 from Leighton Crawford, third 2104 from Ella Rogers, second 2103 from Callie Tharp, and your class winner was 2105 coming from Reed Pratt. At this time, we will now bring back our class winners from classes 25, 26, and 27, and our judge will select your champion and reserve champion junior yearling heifers. From Class 25, first place 2094 from Emery Robinson. Class 26, first place 2102 from Kaylee Jennings. Second place being 2101 from Turner Longacre. And coming back from Class 27, which was just in the ring, first place 2105 from Reed Pratt. Second place 2103, Callie Tharp.
Well, another nice lineup of bigger heifers. I think really nice, and I'll always visit through them just so everybody knows how they hit me, because I do think whenever we bring them back out here, there's some differences. I don't know that anything's just absolutely black and white in terms of what a guy needs to do. We started off in the first class a single entry that I really liked in terms of moderation, center body, substance, sweep, and then hip and hind leg flexibility. I think really she does a lot of things for the type and kind that I like. Something with just a little more stoutness, a structure that's still flexible. Really, she hit me pretty hard when she came in. Now, we talked about she's not the neatest necked one that we've seen throughout the day. She gets a little open in her shoulder, and she's wanting to break just a little bit behind it and get a little weaker in her top line. Some of that's just because I do think she is pretty comfortable and loose in her spine and in her skeleton. So there's some give and take. But I do think that my initial impression of her was really, really good, and I like a lot of things that she does. We had a 2 in our second class, totally different in terms of their type and kind. And like I just talked about, the first class winner, the young ladies that won that represents a kind that I probably like a little bit more. Even though she's got a little bit of leather up front, we could clean her up there, and she wants to roll just a little bit out of her hip. Really, her neck set and extension is still good. Her body type is good. I like her extra stoutness, a foot and bone, and still gets out and uses her lower joint work. Very, very flexible. We talked about how, levelness from hooks to pins in the baldy that was second in there is more consistent. I like her freshness. For me, I just don't know if there's quite enough there. She hits me just a little frailer in terms of her foot and bone, maybe just a little flatter out of her hip and her pin set from behind, but I still think some good in her. And then we just got done talking our final class, one that I felt needed to win in terms of build in that setting. Whenever we bring her back out here, we talked about how she could be just a little neater at the top side of her shoulder. I don't know if she's still quite as feminine enough in terms of the top side of her neck, the way she ties it into her shoulder, and maybe doesn't piece together with maybe the extras that a couple of the other ones do out here. But she still does some good things. So I think there's some give and take out here. There's some differences in type and kind. I don't know that anything's just necessarily black and white, but I'll show you the couple that I like. If you would, let's congratulate these exhibitors. Another very, very nice division.
Your champion junior yearling heifer comes out of class 26. That is 2102 from Kaylee Jennings. Your reserve champion junior yearling heifer comes out of class 25. That is 2094 from Emery Robinson. Congratulations to our division winners. We will now work on clearing out our ring and bring up our division winners for our judge to now select your grand and reserve grand champion junior maintainer females. As promised, now making their way into the ring is going to be your division winners for your judge to select your grand and reserve. From your first division of junior heifer calves, your champion, 2082, from Jance Monsparger. The reserve champion from the division is 2065 from Katie Pryor. From your second division, your champion summer yearling heifer is 2091 from Hannah Fox. And from your third and final division, your champion junior yearling heifer is 2102 from Kaylee Jennings, the reserve champion being 2094 from Emery Robinson. Those are your top individuals for your judge to now select your grand and reserve grand champion junior maintainer females.
Well, a very nice lineup as we get into our maintainer drive out here. And as we've worked through, we've had some differences in type and kind, but I think still we've got 5 out here. Really, really nice. And I do want to visit through them just because I knew as we were bringing our divisions back in that it was going to be a tough decision because there are several differences in types and kinds. We came out of the first division, I thought, with 2 really, really nice and a heifer that came in a little nervous at first, really settled down, and that's one that's easy to like because, man, she has got a neck a mile long that ties her high onto the top side of her shoulder. Her structure and flexibility from the ground up is really, really good, and that's what allows her to maintain that look of balance, whether she's standing still, in motion. So I think a good heifer that for me is going to only continue to get better. I think compare her to the cattle that come behind her. Does she have quite as much turn and substance right behind her shoulder and the turn to her forerib and her lower body? Probably not, but I think for where she's at, she's still very, very nice. And a second a reserve in that division, again, I thought very good. I like her build. I like her presence. Again, probably one of the greenest ones that we had in the show, but still ton of upside potential in her. Be proud to have her and excited to see what she does down the road. We had a single entry there in our middle division and a heifer that's good in terms of having some look up front. Her depth of body from the side is good. She's got some stoutness of bone work. I don't know that maybe she hits me quite as fresh as I maybe like to see her. And whenever we get her in motion, I don't know if she gets out of her front end and uses her hind leg just perfectly. She gets just a little awkward there, and then she could be just a little bolder, a little square right behind her shoulder. But good looking, good bodied, I think covers the fundamentals well and still gives you a good look. The heifer that came out of our final division, and we had a pair of them that we landed on, and I think those two are more alike than they are different, but even though I think both of them hit me stout in their structure and good and flexible, I still liked the one that we landed on in terms of a little more extension up front. I really like her neck set, even though she needs to be cleaned up at the base of her chest, and then she wants to roll just a nickel there out of her hip. We could make her just a shot more consistent from hooks to pins, a little neater at the base of her chest, but she's still good in terms of her extension up front. I really appreciate her rib and body type, her stoutness of structure and flexibility. I think if you're missing her and not giving her the credit that she deserves, she does a lot of things that I really, really like. In the reserve in there, we talked about her in terms of, again, stout and good in her structure. She's flexible and comfortable, a little shorter necked, a little more open in her shoulder. We could neaten her up there, and then she gets just a little weaker right behind her shoulder in terms of her top line balance and spine, but I like her still in terms of having some substance and the right kind of flexibility. So there's some differences out here in type and kind. I think it's close, and I think that there's some tough decisions that you have to make, and so I want to take one more look at them. But before I do, I just want to mention again, I'm very, very thankful for the opportunity to come out here. Blake called me, and I've been looking forward to it ever since. So I just want to say thank you to the Maine Association, all of the help that I had out here. You guys made this very, very easy, something I was looking forward to. And I mentioned during the High Maine show what the National Western means to me and my family. We love it. We've been coming out here for years. I don't remember how old I was when we first started coming. My mom was up here, probably 8 or 9 or something like that. So we've been coming for a long time. And I won't lie, the last year up on the hill, I was very emotional, and I was really sad because that's where I've got all my memories up on the hill. But I can't think of a better way to start a new chapter for the National Western than with this facility down here. This is awesome and incredible. It gets me fired up, and man, I'm just excited for the continuation of the show. So thank you for you guys, what you invest in these exhibitors, because man, we've been fortunate to be competitive. We've got our butts kicked a few times, but man, we've got awesome memories with our family, and I know the exhibitors out here probably share the same thing. So I just wanted to say thank you and express my gratitude one more time. I'll put this down and show you the ones that I like, but if you would, let's congratulate our exhibitors here.
Your grand champion junior maintainer female comes from your junior yearling division. That is 2102 from Kaylee Jennings. Your reserve grand champion junior maintainer female also comes from your junior yearling division. That is 2094 from Emery Robinson. Congratulations to our maintainer exhibitors. That does complete our show for today. Thank you to our judge and our exhibitors for making it a wonderful, memorable year. Pictures will be taking place at the backdrop. Pictures will take place at the backdrop with our official imaging team of Legacy Livestock.